Hey everyone, welcome into DomTime. Talking about Michael Douglas, and more importantly here with Dom Giordano, talking about celebrities, diseases, the announcements they make, the attention they call to the good, the bad, and the ugly, with Dr. Lori Feldman-Winter from Cooper and from Neil Zorn from the Delco Times. Let's go to Judith. Judith, first caller in. Welcome, Judith.
Hi. I was calling because Dr. Winters is actually my child's doctor at Cooper Peds. And
Okay.
I was calling to, let everybody know that she's a very good doctor. She's done her job as far as letting me know about certain types of preventions for HPV, the Gardasil vaccinations. I know there's a lot of controversy about it, but me, myself, I went ahead and made sure that my daughter had got the Gardasil shots. As long as you're a parent that's really involved with the children, I think as far as prevention and everything, you have to speak to your children first. You have to be involved early. Like, early education is the key to preventing a lot of this.
Okay.
So when people don't educate their parents or they don't speak to their doctors,
Right.
you don't know unless you ask.
Thank you, Judith. Thanks very much for calling in tonight. 866-472-8868 gets you to us. Now, Doctor, when we talked before the show, you've thought of this for a long time because of what you do and how difficult some of these things, if sex is anywhere around some of these diseases, it's problematic. Farrah Fawcett would have been a very difficult case, correct? But you think a missed opportunity.
I think it's a missed opportunity, but it would have been difficult to discuss. And I think that really having any discussion about teenagers and young adults engaging in sex is a difficult discussion. And one of the things that we're taught how to do and what we try to do in our clinic is to be non-judgmental. And yet that's really what the media does, is they immediately impose judgment on behaviors. And I think because these cancers, as was Farrah Fawcett's, really due to a behavior in the first place, and that's how the virus gets transmitted, and the behavior is sexual, it's difficult to discuss because the community that is thinking about these behaviors and these cancers and the HPV vaccine in and of itself doesn't really want to have those scary conversations, particularly with teenagers, because they think that by having the conversation that's somehow condoning the behavior.
You know, hearing that, and I think Neil, I'll come to you in a second, with Michael Douglas, it would seem to me, if he was going to do that, I'd want to see his partner with him, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and I want to see permission. So with Farrah Fawcett, she would have to get Ryan O'Neal or whomever, but that would be the likely thing. In other words, when it's this personal and this intimate, if that were my wife out there doing that, or if I did that to her, that's the missing piece to me. I think there has to be a united stand here. Kind of like I saw with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, there was a united front because he's affected by this to some degree too. And that's what I think you need to do.
I think one thing that I have to clear up is that the behaviors that occur that transmit the virus occur sometimes 10 or 20 years before the cancer occurs. So these celebrities coming out and talking about their disease is years after they've actually acquired the virus. So their partners, their current partners, really aren't.
I know, but you know what? We're not doctors like you or like Neil. And the first thing of listeners and people calling me was Catherine Zeta-Jones. I mean, you see the association that we make with this.
That
Neil?
makes sense, but I don't think he said it intentionally. I think he basically said it as part of a press conference to publicize behind the candelabra. There's a lot of things involved. Farrah Fawcett, first of all, there's a class factor. Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal, not very classy people. When you get right down to it. And also there's a time factor. What you can talk about 10 years ago is different from what you can talk about today. People become more and more comfortable, more and more open. Nobody's sleeping on twin beds in sitcoms anymore. So there's a lot of things like that. So Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt did something noble. They planned it. Michael Douglas, I don't think, planned it. It came out as a matter of conversation. That's fine. Why criticize him for it? I'm sure Catherine didn't like it, but she did nothing wrong. It's something nobody knew he had the virus. You can't test for the virus, can you? Or can you?
Well, you can.
You can
that's
test for
what
it in
pap
advance?
smears do.
Okay. In a woman.
In a woman.
In a woman.
Correct. But you wouldn't normally
Why would you
test
test? Yeah, why would you be testing?
To see if you're safe, the same way you would take an AIDS test,
Is
the same way you take any
this a
test.
common thing though, to be testing for HPV or not? An AIDS test, that's
at all.
part of the, not at all. So this wouldn't be something
No, it wouldn't be something that someone would just say, I'd like to be screened for the different types and serotypes of HPV and then have a blood test. That just wouldn't be done. And in fact, it would be difficult to achieve. It's really through pap smears that we've been able to screen women, but we really haven't had a practice of screening men for throat cancer, for example.
And why would Catherine just get tested, assuming that's what she wanted to do? She could and she couldn't. There's no point in doing it. That's where awareness comes in. People will do it more often. So you can't really blame her. She probably didn't like it, but really that's sort of gossipy. When the main point is that something that needs to be talked about is now in the open, and a celebrity who did that. I'm thinking of another case of Mule Brenner, who made commercials while he was alive to air after he died
That was one of the
about
most effective.
smoking.
People
Yes.
still talk about
Yes.
that. Absolutely. Is there something out there that either one of you think you hope a celebrity comes out and talks about now? Is there any other thing? You know, there's a part of you hear people saying, yeah, that's why I'm asking it, that we're just going too far with this. Some of this stuff is private, and there seems to be just a whole array of these exposés that have been done.
It's private until you know that there's a vaccine that the teenagers can take that can keep them possibly from getting cancer or cancer through this means. And let's face it, if there's a way to prevent cancer, especially in your children, I think you need to consider that.
Let's take another caller for Neil and Dr. Lori. Let's go to Terry in Atlantic City. Hey, Terry, thanks for checking in tonight.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello.
go right ahead, Terry. Hi.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. Yeah, I would just like to ask the doctor one question.
Sure.
Very simple. How many vaccines has she had in her life?
So I think your question is drawing upon the fact that the number of vaccines that we give to children is much higher than the vaccines that I might have received when I was a child, way back when polio vaccine was actually just coming out. I hate to
Don't
date
date
myself,
yourself. Come on
but-
now, that's not possible.
We're all in that camp.
Exactly,
Right, well,
yes.
yeah. So, yes, there's no question that the number of vaccines that children and adolescents receive, and adults as well, there are many adult vaccines that are now available, is much greater. But that's really an advancement, not really a step back. When we think about vaccination, one way to think about it that I think takes away some of the fear is that really every single minute of every single day, the body is in fact immunizing itself. Every time we take a deep breath and every time we touch something and touch it close to our mouth, in fact, we're inoculating our body with some kind of protein, what we
Okay,
call
well, let me interrupt.
antigen.
Terry, do you think too many vaccinations for your kids? Is that what you're getting at?
No, I just want one question answered. How many vaccines has she had?
Back to that again.
Count them up there.
All right, thank you, Terry, very
When
much.
I was a child, I had maybe a few, maybe one or two. And then when I was going into medical school, we had to be vaccinated against all of the childhood illnesses. Certainly as a pediatrician, we had to be immune against MMR, measles, mumps, rubella.
Final
a
point for you,
variety of
Neil. What's
others.
the takeaway from tonight for Neil Zorn?
I think that people need to look at their own health, and when a celebrity brings something to massive attention as opposed to small attention in a doctor's office, it's a good thing.
Doctor, you
I
and Neil
agree.
Zorn joined here together. We've solved this.
I completely agree. I think that raising awareness and understanding that the behaviors have to be demystified so that we can improve vaccination rates.
I just want to hear what Catherine Zeta-Jones has to say about this. That's
you
what-
will, I'm
We
sure.
will at some point in the future. Hey, Neil, thanks very much for
Thank you,
joining
Doug.
us. When does the column appear? On Mondays, right?
Mondays in the Delaware County Daily Times.
And Doctor, thank you very much. And we'll
Thank you
find
for
out, we'll
having
count
me.
up the number of vaccinations you have, and I'll answer that. I'll bring that to America coming up. All right, coming up, my own special 1 minute tonight of DomTime. Something important started today, an important trial, not the Jodi Arias type of trial that we're fascinated by, but it's a train wreck of no significance. The Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case today started in Florida. Zimmerman, of course, accused of second-degree murder. This is going to be a real test. I talked about it in my radio show today, and there was a bit of a breakdown, but not quite the breakdown that we saw along racial lines with the O.J. Simpson case. I'm convinced that already the media has rushed to judgment here in the matter of Zimmerman and his guilt. NBC was even involved in apparently doctoring that tape to determine who screamed. Was it Zimmerman or was it Trayvon Martin? Watch for this case. Watch to see what we hear coming out of this courtroom as far as the actual evidence that's presented versus some of what we've seen and heard in the media. But I'm convinced this will not be like O.J. Simpson when the verdict comes down in Trayvon Martin, the George Zimmerman case. It will not be people huddled cheering or essentially booing in one corner or another. I think America has grown up a lot, and whatever happens here, we'll be able to accept it. Hey, tomorrow night, we talk about Chris Christie, the good, the bad, and the ugly, on DomTime.